So I don't understand. Is this like a whole like Dear Abby thing?
The Reddit?
Yeah.
Hello, welcome or welcome back to Life on the Franch. Today we are doing another Our Relationships video. We have a guest host with us today. We have my mom. What is your relationship status?
Married.
And for how long?
Oh. 29 years this year. And together since 1987, so 35 years?
That's a long time.
That's a very long time.
And then Stan and I are married.
Newlyweds are so cute.
Anyhow, so Stan and I are married, and we've both been in other long-term relationships as well. So we'll be using our own experiences to respond to these questions, but obviously it's not the end-all be-all advice, and we don't have any special qualifications. These are just our personal opinions. So our first prompt: my 23-year-old female's boyfriend, 27-year-old male, does not ever want to marry me.
It's a strong statement already.
I've been with my boyfriend for almost 3 years now. Our relationship has never been easy, but not for the reasons that most couples can relate to. My boyfriend has a very serious chronic illness, and he was diagnosed with just as we met each other. We love each other very much and always have since the very beginning. We make each other laugh, and we have compatible views on almost everything except for the topic of marriage. Since the very first day we knew each other, I was only 20 and in college, and he was beginning his career. I have physically and emotionally taken care of my boyfriend because of his serious chronic illness. He goes through periods of being much more severe, and he cannot adequately care for himself during those times. He's very kind to me and has always done his best to support us financially. We moved in together, and very quickly so I could be there for him whenever he needed help. We fell deeply in love with each other as the years went by and decided that we wanted to stay together as long as possible. When I graduated college, it was right as the pandemic started, and in a very traumatic turn of events, a day or so later, my boyfriend suddenly ended up in the hospital due to his illness. He was extremely sick because he couldn't get his usual medicine on time due to pandemic-related hospital issues. This whole situation completely broke me since I really thought he was going to die. When I faced the very real possibility of losing him, I realized just how much he meant to me and how little everything else mattered. Honestly, I haven't been the same since that happened. Thankfully, he survived, and I have been something of a stay-at-home girlfriend for the past year and a half to prevent anything like that from happening again. In the time since, we've adopted an emotional support cat we both love, take very good care of. My boyfriend has become healthy enough that I was able to recently go out and get a job of my own. He's been supportive, kind to me, and thankful for my help the entire time. During all the hardships we faced together, I began fantasizing about what it would be like to get married to this wonderful man and be his wife. The idea brought me a lot of comfort, and I slowly began to realize how much I loved the idea. However, I now face a huge problem. My boyfriend doesn't believe in marriage. When we first started dating, back when I was barely 21 years old, he made it very clear to me that he did not ever want to have children due to his illness, and that he would never want to marry. At first, I had absolutely no problem with this because I was younger and wasn't even thinking about that kind of stuff yet, but now I'm not sure if I feel the same way anymore. 3 weeks ago, I brought this up to him and it didn't go well. He got extremely defensive, frustrated, and upset. It was our first major fight. He showed me a side of him that I'd never seen before. I cried a lot, although I completely understand and agree with his feelings on not wanting to have children. I might want to get married one day, which isn't what he wanted to hear. He grew up in an abusive household, and marriage scares him as a result. I feel terrible because I'd never want to pressure him in any way, especially not with something like this.
You skipped this part.
He even took responsibility and got a vasectomy as soon as he was physically healthy enough about the children thing.
Yeah, so he really doesn't want kids.
Yeah.
But he was very clear about that. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The conversation between him and I went horribly and brought up a lot of stress, which ultimately triggered a flare-up of his illness. I feel so bad for even discussing marriage with him. Now that this latest flare-up is under control, I'm terrified of bringing up the conversation with him ever again. I don't know what I should do. I love him so much, and I guess I could learn to give up my fantasy of marriage if it causes him so much stress. But I feel really hurt. Our life together is so special, and each moment I have with him means so much more. So I feel guilty for having thoughts of wanting anything more. Any advice on what I should do? I'm not sure who or where to turn to. Should I give up on the idea of marriage? Am I being ridiculous for feeling hurt considering the circumstances?
There's a lot going on in this. First, they met when she was 20.
Mm-hmm.
And she was barely 21 when he told her, like, I'm not getting married and I'm not having kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he strung her along. I mean, that's 1 year into the relationship.
Even sooner, because they started dating at 21, so I'm assuming that towards the beginning, he made it fairly clear.
So, and I don't know what this illness is or what kind of flare-ups he's having.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like if does she want a wedding or does she want a marriage? Because it sounds like he's pretty solid with her
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. He's been financially supporting her. She's been supporting him through all of her illness and everything. So it sounds like to me, I think she just wants a wedding.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I guess, what I think more is. You know, should I give up the idea of anything more? And I just don't.
What's the more?
Like unless you are.
I have a cat.
And they live together. So I don't know what the more is. Like, there are a few things that happen when you get married that change from a legal perspective. Like, you automatically are the beneficiary if there's no will. You have more rights to their information at the hospital.
But you can sign off on all that stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. All of like the legal things that happen, you can do without a marriage. You can just go through a different process to get those things. So if you're looking for that level of security, which might be important, especially with access to him if he's in the hospital with an illness, I would suggest doing that for like security and, you know, partnership. But you don't need to get married.
That's just paperwork. That's not marriage.
Yeah. There's
very few things I think that are gonna. The only thing more is
like unless you're like super religious and you don't believe in divorce, then nothing changes. And even if you don't believe in divorce, it could still happen. I don't know what you're gaining from a marriage. It's like a lifetime commitment, but you can promise each other a lifetime commitment without marriage.
And it sounds like he's committed.
Yeah,
I feel like he's very committed. He just doesn't want to get married because of what he went through as a child.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a control issue for his parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it was abusive in one way or the other. So maybe he feels like if he gets married, that's the way either he's going to be towards her or she's going to be towards him. You know?
And it can feel a little bit more like trapped and confining. I also think maybe one benefit of not getting married would be, like, I've always thought that, you know, it's very easy if you're married to become complacent because you basically have committed to not leaving. And if you don't get married, I think you have more of a motivational factor to try in the relationship, to like continue that sort of dating energy and like going out and getting each other things, because you don't have that like easy, like, well, you're stuck with me, so I don't have to do anything subconscious going on. And that can, I think, play into like, I think that mentality of they can't leave is what a lot of people are afraid of in marriage.
Because they want the option to leave?
I think people like having the option to walk away and then not choosing it.
We need to answer her question.
I feel like what I'm saying is I don't know what you're getting out of a marriage. So I think you have to answer, like, be specific. Like, what are you trying to get out of getting married? Is it a wedding? Is it these paperwork things? Is it like a religious commitment? Like, what are you trying to gain from getting married? Not that marriage is always religious, but like,
So you want the more. You
yeah,
want to know
what is the more? Because maybe you can have the more without actually getting married.
Because we've already got physically, emotionally, financially. I mean,
and cat parenting.
And a cat, which I don't like cats.
So yeah, figure out what the more is and see if you can get it without a marriage, or if it's some abstract concept you have of what marriage is like that is different from a long-term committed relationship.
I mean, it's only 2 years. This is the thing. I mean, I know that you guys had a very fast, well, not a very fast relationship, but compared to your dad and I, I mean, you know, first date to walking down the aisle was almost 6 years. So for me, this is like child's play. That like this is 2 years. You know what I mean? 2 years.
But you don't want to stay in a relationship if you decide that whatever that more is that you're looking for, if you want it and it can't be provided to you in the relationship, you shouldn't stay with him.
Oh, I agree.
So that's what I'm saying. Figure out what the more is. If you can have it without a marriage, then you can stay together, you know, and then maybe if you are looking for, like I said, if you're looking for a wedding and not really a marriage, you can throw a party, like, and have a non-wedding ceremony if you want to. You know, or if it's something that you can, like, get only in a marriage, like some abstract concept of commitment that you see through marriage, then you have to go find another partner. Because it's pretty clear that they don't want to get married, and you really aren't in a position to pressure somebody into getting married.
Yeah, and I think she needs to be more patient too, because this is only a 2-year relationship. Everything can happen, and I mean, it's very, I think, premature to be making any kind of like this. Although he already got a vasectomy, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's not going to change his mind. So you have to decide if you think over time you would change yours. It doesn't seem like he's going to change his, and he's also older than you. He's probably thought about this for longer, and he's also already 27. You know, so it's only a 2-year relationship, but like, he's kind of at the age where a lot of guys get married. So, you know, like, she's still young, but he's not in terms of that kind of thing. Okay, this is about dating again after a long-term relationship. I've, 38-year-old female, started dating someone, a 37-year-old male, who came out of an 8-year long-term relationship less than a year ago. I understand that when you're with someone for so long that it's hard not to think about them. We've only been dating a couple months. I do feel like every story of his starts with his ex, though. He's friends with all of her friends, which I'm very accepting of because it's such a big part of your life. I want to be as open and accepting as possible. I can't help constantly feeling like the new girl and have to fit into his situation. I've bottled this up and convinced he has no idea I'm feeling uneasy. Trying to pinpoint it, I wonder if it's just too soon for him to start dating, or at what point is the right time to start dating after a very long-term relationship, as to not make the new person, me in this case, feel like a rebound or less special. I just wonder if his friends are like, dude, why are you already dating, and who is this new girl? Which makes me feel all kinds of sad and weird. Any thoughts or feelings about dating out of a long-term relationship? So I can start with this one. So Stan and I have both had long-term relationships. Stan was dating someone for 7 years before me, and then after that he got into a 1-year relationship, and then there was a like maybe 6-month gap, and then we started dating. So he was in 2 other relationships. One of them would be a long-term, like very long-term relationship. And before I started dating Stan, I had literally just left my past relationship of 3 years before we started dating, and my ex and I were pretty serious. So we both have had to deal with this with each other, and this is something actually Stan complained about with me, where I would talk about my ex in conversations. My thought though, it wasn't that I was hung up necessarily, like in that respect. I think it was just like, if I'm telling a story, I will list out every person who is involved in that story, regardless of if people have met them, and it doesn't apply just to my ex. But because you and a significant other are going to have so many memories together, I think it's really hard to talk about things without bringing them up. And then if you don't bring them up, which is what Stan did, he would tell me all these stories, and then he wouldn't like say his ex was involved, and then later it would come up that the ex was at whatever event. Like, to me that was weirder, because I was like, well, why didn't you just say that this person was there?
Yeah.
You know, and I never took it personally or anything. It was just different, and we talked about it, which is what I would recommend doing here. But I don't think one way is necessarily better than the other, but people are going to bring up their exes if they've been in long-term relationships. And I think people are really bothered by this. Like, a lot of my friends, like, don't understand that. Like, when we first started dating, and like Stan and I, they didn't understand why we were so communicative with each other about our exes. And I found it to be, like, beneficial because I had a better, more broad picture of his past experience, like, in life. But also, like, we could learn from each other's past relationships to make our relationship stronger. And we did a lot of talking about our exes. And I think that's why we were able to kind of connect and form such a stable relationship so quickly, was because we talked so much about what went right and wrong in other relationships, and we knew what we wanted more. So I do feel like maybe he should try to be maybe providing you with some of that, like, positive feedback if you're concerned about it. But I also feel like maybe this is something you need to work through, because pretending that part of his life never happened isn't going to work.
Okay, wait. I think there's two other things going on here. One, she says, he has no idea that I'm feeling uneasy. You need to tell him.
Yeah.
Period. Period. Two, they've only been dating for a couple of months. So you guys haven't had the opportunity yet to make your own couples friends together. And I think if you keep moving forward, like, the other friends that he is hanging out with that belong to the ex as well, they're not going to go away, but they're not going to play such a significant part in his life as, I think, when you guys start doing more together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they have a couple of months means 8 weekends, maybe
right.
12. You know what I mean? I feel like you guys haven't shared enough yet where you're making all these fantastic memories that, you know, like, you can start reminiscing about because you've only had 12 weekends together. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So, but I do feel like, first and foremost, you need to tell him, like, can you please stop talking about your ex if it's really bothering you? You know what I mean? Or... Yeah,
but also I just feel like I don't know how fair that is. But this is, like, a controversial opinion. I recognize that. Like, I don't know if you would share this opinion. But in my opinion, which is controversial, is that you should be able to talk about your significant other about everything. So if, for example, I were in a new relationship and I couldn't talk about my exes,
well,
I wouldn't be able to stay.
I don't think it's even that. I'm just saying, like, if he's constantly reminiscing about the ex,
sure.
If it's a reminiscing kind of thing and you feel like he is longing for those times, you know what I mean? Then there's a problem.
Sure.
He's not ready to move. He's not ready to start dating yet.
Sure. Yeah.
And you are the rebound. Literally.
Yeah. If he's, like, reminiscing. But I think there's a difference between reminiscing and, like, sharing stories if you're all talking about things that you've done in the past. Like, especially with something as long as 8 years. Like, how many stories do you have if you've been together for 8 years that don't involve your significant other?
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you tried to, like, especially like if you tried to think of stories that didn't involve like dad, or if I didn't try to think of stories that happened recently that didn't involve Stan, I would draw almost a blank. Like, yeah, I've done a couple things with my friends that didn't involve my significant others, but not a ton. Or not where they wouldn't have played a supporting role somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, like I said, I've been the new girl, and it is a little bit weird to meet friends that have met the other exes, because you do feel like you're kind of competing. You want to be like the cool person, like approved, especially when you meet new friends, you want to get their approval, so they, tell your partner, oh yeah, they're a keeper, But I think if you're like friendly and you're trying to be their friend, more than just making good impression, like if you're trying to connect with them, I think that's good, and you can be, confident in your relationship. Confidence in your relationship will bleed into confidence with his friends.
Well, the question is, I'm just wondering if it was too soon for him to start dating, and what point is the right time for somebody to start dating after a long-term relationship. Those were her questions.
Yeah, but I didn't like her premise.
Okay. Well, my feeling is only he knows when it was time for him to start dating again, because I'm sure it was very hard for him to put himself out there.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
And if he was willing to put himself out there for you, then I think that's saying something. I don't know how you guys met, but and then
yeah, and I don't think I agree with you. I don't think there's a standard time.
I don't think there's
for
a waiting
breakups.
time. And you don't know, but his friends could have very well been like, dude, you need to get back out there. You need to get back out there. You need to get back out there. You know what I mean?
And they might not. They might be mutual friends with the ex, but still not think that their relationship was good.
That's true too.
You can be You can think people are good people and still think they make a bad partner in a specific relationship.
Indeed. So I don't think his friends are probably saying, "Hey, dude, why are you already dating?" I don't think that's happening.
And even if it were true, I just can't imagine like saying that to my friends, especially like that.
No, I don't think that's happening. I think that's in your head.
Yeah. And that's what I was kind of trying to get at, is I think a lot of this is more you feeling more insecure.
I think she feels very insecure.
Than the actual situation warrants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And with that said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our content, click subscribe, ding the bell button to know when we post. Most importantly, we hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!